Hello, today I'm talking to Suzie Shalmerdine about health. Now, Suzie was ill herself and she decided to take her own healing, her own journey into her own hands. So Suzie, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what you did for yourself and what you discovered along the way.
In 2005, I was diagnosed with a condition called ME. It's a very debilitating illness that affects you with fatigue, but there's not much help available actually from the traditional medical sense. So I was left to actually go out and try and find any form of aid of recovery that I could. And that led me into looking at different healing techniques, including Reiki and acupuncture. And eventually I found something called the EFT, which is an energy psychology technique. And to be honest, I thought, it's strange man tapping. This is not going to help me at all, but at least I can say I gave it a go. And I actually found just through one session that the pain that I was suffering with the ME actually disappeared. And so I decided to look at it further. I didn't understand how it worked, but decided to actually learn this technique for myself. It's a self-help technique. So I decided to actually go along, learn this technique, and found within 3 days that I had a lot more energy and was able to sustain that energy.
Okay, now that sounds really good. You've been really ill, you're in pain, you hear something called EFT?
EFT,
which is
yes, emotional freedom techniques.
Okay, and then someone starts to tap on you. It sounds a little bit strange. What happened? What did they do?
It does sound very weird, and trust me, whilst I was in that session, I thought it was absolutely bizarre. But it was really looking at emotional blocks, stresses that had occurred. And I found myself talking about things that, quite frankly, were not related to my illness, or certainly that I didn't perceive. But I let go of a lot of emotion that day, a lot of things I've been bottling up and just going over and over and over again in my head. And it really seemed to impact my health.
Okay, so unpick this slightly for me. What's the tapping side of it? What's that?
Okay, the tapping is working with the meridian system.
Okay.
So it's like a form of acupuncture without needles. So in acupuncture, they actually use the meridian system, and the needles send a vibration down that meridian system. What EFT does is focuses in on the emotional problem, or the stress that's in the life, and actually, instead of using the needles, taps on the ends of meridian lines, sending a vibration down to activate really whole brain activity, but also whole body healing. So looking at it, identifying it, and using the energy system to clear and help aid the recovery from that psychological issue.
Okay, so where are these meridian lines? Where are the tapping lines, or whatever you call them? Where are they?
They're actually like our internal energy system. Okay, so they're within the body, and there are studies that you can find on the internet where people have actually placed dye in to distinguish these lines.
Right.
And there's also evidence that they've found from thousands of years ago, pinpointing these lines and mapping these lines. But the best way to describe it is that inside of us, we've got all this energy, and there are actually lines of these energies going around, helping us with our daily lives.
So where do I find? Give me an example. Where is one of these energy lines?
Okay, one of these energy lines can be simply found on the side of the hand.
Side of your hand, yeah, okay.
Okay, and that will travel through the body.
Right.
Okay, but on the side of the hand is the end of that line.
Okay.
Okay, so by tapping, just like that, it's sending a vibration down the system.
And it's not just on the hands, it's
on the fingers, on the bodies. So there are points around the eyes. There's a point here on the chest. And these are points that by tapping the ends of the meridian lines, a bit like acupuncture, you're sending that vibration down, and looking at a very holistic healing.
Okay, so when someone comes to you now, do you tap on them? Do you help them? How does it work? What happens when someone comes to you?
Okay, if someone comes to me, I always encourage my clients, and I encourage practitioners that I teach to get the clients to tap on themselves. It may sound bizarre, but this is a form of self-help. So if clients can learn where these points are, then they're able to go off and do this work in time by themselves, and certainly in between sessions build on the work that they have been doing. So it's a very self-empowering tool that very simply by tapping the ends of the meridian lines that they can help themselves with.
Now, is your specialism in this line for people who are ill, or do you help other people? Who do you help?
Okay, I use primarily three tools to help people and to teach practitioners to help their clients with. But this is for everybody. These are not complicated tools. They're easy to learn self-help tools. And I use emotional freedom techniques, which is EFT, or most commonly known as tapping. An advanced form of EFT, which is called matrix re-imprinting. And I also use a diagnostic tool called metamedicine. And what it's really about is working alongside a medical diagnosis and looking at the stress-based relief. Okay, because we all know that stress encourages illness. So it's looking at relieving that stress and then allowing the body to really go through the healing process and heal itself.
Right, so if I understand this right, you specifically help people who are ill.
Yes.
And in their recovery process. What happens if someone comes to you who is not going to get better, who's got a terminal illness? What will happen with them? How will you help them?
What we're looking at is giving them as much peace and taking enough stress off the body.
Right.
Okay, so that if it is a terminal illness, that they're not having to, with all the stress that comes on board, that they're not feeling the complete, full impact of the stress, the emotion, the worries, that they're able to look at that, work through it. And okay, with a terminally ill client, you are really looking at more of the stress, the emotion that goes with that, and giving them as much peace as possible, whilst also receiving medical treatment if they are.
And that's important, isn't it? You're not anti-medical treatment, anti the establishment. You work alongside them.
Yes, we work alongside them, and it's about looking at a holistic healing in the true sense of the form, the body, mind, spirit connection. Also looking at environmental connections. So really treating it so the person can get either the best from the health of time they have left, or like a woman called Ina, who's actually featured on my website. She had tinnitus. She'd suffered for 20 years with what she described as a 0 to 10, with 10 being extreme, 10 tinnitus. Now, for 20 years, she'd suffered with this condition. But actually, when we started working with it, every other aspect had been looked at. There was just some stress involved with this. And we were able to clear that. And within an hour, her tinnitus was down to a 0.
Wow.
Now, I would have expected possibly coming back up to a 4 or 5, but she's actually remained clear, and she hasn't had tinnitus now for a year.
That's wonderful. So if people want to work with you, know more about EFT or the other techniques that you use, how do they get in touch with you?
There's lots of free resources and information available on my website. And I'm very approachable. Pick up a phone, ask me the questions, send me an email. I'm really looking to get this information out there. To teach practitioners how to add it to their clients, but also for people themselves who really want to put the healing back into their own hands.
That's lovely, Suzie. Thank you very much for talking today.
Thank you.